Los Angeles, where dreams are made, stars are born, and chaos is a given. A city where a bank heist happens every 48 minutes. Today is just another boring day for a crew that plans to make the most of those odds. An armored truck with 2 guards in the front and 2 others in the back makes a casual stop at a coffee shop. Out of nowhere, a sedan pulls up beside the truck, followed by an SUV. Before the guards can react, 2 masked men step out, guns drawn. The guards freeze, but inside the truck, one of them frantically hits the panic button, calling for backup. One of the robbers catches on and demands the driver get out, threatening to use armor-piercing rounds if he doesn't comply. The driver refuses, so they drill into the windshield, hook it to their SUV, and rip it off, like peeling back the lid on a tin can. A guard panics and drops his coffee, trying to reach for his gun, right before catching a bullet for his trouble. Chaos follows. The other guard is knocked to the ground. Inside the truck, the driver isn't faring any better. He's gunned down while trying to make a move. All this goes down as sirens wail in the distance, cops rushing through the rain-slicked streets of Los Angeles. The countdown has begun. Meanwhile, at a different location, one of the robbers, Mark, is calmly tracking police movements, casually dropping updates. Cops are 30 seconds out. They plant explosives on the back of the truck, blowing it wide open, killing the last guard in the process. One of the robbers sets a bleach bomb in the front of their SUV, a clever move to destroy any evidence. No fingerprints, no DNA. As they pull the last guard out of the truck, the robbers hear the cops getting closer, sirens growing louder. They brace for impact, preparing for a firefight, but aiming only for suppressive fire. The cops arrive in full force, greeted by a hail of bullets. Welcome to the party, boys. As more officers flood the scene, they meet the same brutal fate. One by one, they're picked off. The robbers, highly trained and clearly ex-military, are just too good. However, one cocky robber thought he had a shot, until he didn't. The crew makes off with the empty armored truck. Merriman, the leader, isn't pleased though. This was supposed to be clean, and one of his guys went rogue, killing a guard. They ditch the truck in a warehouse, and here we meet the rest of Merriman's team. Bosco, the guy who can't follow orders. Donnie, the driver. Lavu, Merriman's right-hand man. Mac, the hacker, and Ray Merriman himself, the brain behind it all. Merriman grills Bosco, wondering if he's clean or if something's messing with his head. Ray isn't just concerned about the bodies left behind, he's worried about the heat. They're now officially cop killers, and that line, once crossed, changes everything. Enter Detective Big Nick, swaggering onto the crime scene like he owns it. He's been chasing Merriman and his crew for a while now, and today's mess just adds more fuel to his fire. His crew, Gus, Murph, Tony Z, and Baracco, are loyal, though they're clearly concerned about Nick's habit of showing up under the influence. He ignores them, grabs a donut from the crime scene, and starts eating. Nothing says I'm on top of things like breakfast over a dead body. As they analyze the scene, Nick's mind spins. Why steal an empty truck? It doesn't make sense. Meanwhile, Bosco is lurking nearby, snapping photos from a safe distance. Just as things start heating up, the FBI arrives, and tension crackles. Lob Bob, the FBI agent, clearly doesn't like Nick, and the feeling is mutual. Bob comments on Nick's expensive jacket, and Nick brushes it off like it's no big deal, but you can tell these two are bound to butt heads. Later, Bosco reports back to Merriman. Merriman knows who his enemy is now, Big Nick, and he doesn't like it one bit. This just got personal. Back at the sheriff's department, Nick and his crew brainstorm the robbery. Tony suggests it's Merriman, paroled 8 months ago. Nick nods, but his eyes narrow as he recalls a name, Donnie, a bartender who might just know something. Cut to the bar. Donnie's working the crowd. He keeps a security card left by a Federal Reserve employee, a detail that'll be crucial later. He chats with Mac, a member of Merriman's crew, who praises Donnie's ability to remember orders. Donnie grins, claiming he's always in control of his environment. Little does he know, he's about to lose that control. Nick arrives, playing it cool. He makes small talk with Donnie, hinting at the shady stories people spill after a few drinks. Then, as Donnie leaves the bar, Nick strikes. Out of nowhere, he knocks Donnie out cold. Next morning, Donnie wakes up with a pounding headache in a room that's definitely not his. He stumbles out to find Nick and his crew lounging with drinks and women, acting like they're on vacation. "Why are my pants wet?" Donnie asks, confused. The crew bursts into laughter. He peed himself. The mood shifts as Nick shows Donnie a photo of him with Merriman. Denial is pointless now. Nick's interrogation ramps up, and despite Donnie's protests, he starts to crack. Under pressure, Donnie admits he's just the getaway driver, brought in for his skills. Flashing back to a few months ago, Donnie recounts how he was approached by Marcus and Bosco, who offered him the job and introduced him to Merriman. Merriman wasn't sure at first, but after going on a terrifying test drive, it was clear. Donnie was in. Donnie's skills were undeniable, and Merriman wanted him on the team. Donnie's first gig with the crew was a clean operation, and they checked the cache. Tossing bundles into water, they're hunting for color bombs, and it turns out some bundles are marked, while others are clean. It's a pretty efficient method. After drying the money in microwaves, Marcus suggests to Merriman that they retire on this score. But Merriman, always thinking bigger, isn't impressed. That's when he drops the bombshell. A plan for $30 million in unmarked bills. What happened to the cash? Nick presses, but Donnie stays cool, telling him it's above his pay grade. With no more juice to squeeze from Donnie, Nick cuts him loose with a parting shot. I'll be in touch. The next morning, Big Nick is rummaging through the fridge at home when Debbie, his wife, sneaks up on him. She's holding her phone, and it's bad news. She asks if he's been erasing his calls. When Nick claims he was at work last night, she hits him with the cold truth. He smells like a stripper. Then, she pulls out her phone to show him the text he accidentally sent her, meant for his side piece. Debbie grabs the kids and bags, getting ready to leave. Nick pleads, desperate to patch things up, but it's too late. In a last-ditch effort, he blocks her from getting in the car, leading to a brief scuffle. But Nick doesn't fight back. He just stands there as Debbie unloads her anger with a few slaps. She enters the car and leaves. Another day, another disaster for Nick. Back at the station, Big Nick and his crew finally get a break. They zero in on Marcus, a crew member killed during the recent cash truck robbery, and link him to Merriman. Digging deeper, they learn that Merriman's crew is made up of elite MARSOC members, highly trained, experienced in combat, and ruthless. Nick briefs his team on their past jobs, piecing together patterns that could help them finally catch the crew. Nick closes the meeting with a strong message. Nailing Merriman will solve all their open cases. Donnie gets picked up by Merriman and Bosco, and Merriman shows him their target, the Federal Reserve. Later, in a secluded parking lot, the crew gathers to discuss their ambitious plan, robbing the Federal Reserve that Friday. Their target, $30 million in unmarked bills, headed for destruction. The whole plan is laid out with military precision. Merriman explains how hard it will be. If you even look at the building too long, security will be on you. And if they see your face again, forget it. The Secret Service will be hunting you down. They've got cameras, motion detectors, and face-scanning computers that are more invasive than your phone's Face ID. If you somehow manage to get in, there's a bigger catch. Every serial number of every bill is recorded. If one goes missing, the feds know, and they'll track it down anywhere in the world. This is starting to sound more like a suicide mission than a heist. Merriman's solution? Go for the unfit bills. Every day, $30 million worth of old unfit notes get shredded and erased from the system. Get those before they're destroyed, and you've got a cool $30 million that doesn't exist anymore. Just one problem. They have to get in and out without a trace. Lavu asks how they're getting past security, and Merriman, as cryptic as ever, says they'll go through the back with the stolen cash truck. Donnie picks up a new job, working as a delivery guy for a Chinese restaurant. It's all part of the plan. Meanwhile, as Big Nick is heading home, he gets served divorce papers. Talk about adding insult to injury. Merriman's running his crew through the plan one more time. They're going to cut the power at the Federal Reserve. And while the vault's power will stay on, everything else, cameras, motion detectors, will go dark. Lavu is curious about how Merriman got all this intel, but Merriman shuts him down. The next day, Donnie casually walks into the Federal Reserve with 2 food bags, dressed as a Chinese food delivery guy. He's the picture of innocence. Big Nick and his crew are watching from afar, and Donnie passes through the first checkpoint easily. Security at the desk checks his ID, gives him the all clear, and he's in. He delivers the food, flirts a little, then slips into the bathroom, where he stashes the second food bag in a vent. It was a smooth move. Over at Lavu's house, there's a little family drama of a different kind. His daughter is heading to prom, and her date arrives, all smiles and charm. Lavu doesn't trust this kid as far as he can throw him, so he pulls the guy aside for a chat in the garage. But this isn't your typical dad talk. The garage is full of Merriman and his crew, looking more intimidating than ever. Lavu makes sure the boy understands one thing. If he messes with his daughter, there will be consequences.
So here's what's up. For the past 16 years, my daughter's safety and protection is my responsibility on me. First time in her life, I gotta hand you that responsibility. Don't fuck up, or your mama will weep just to wheel your ass around every day the rest of your life.
Sí, que haiu aguanta mí. Vamos a hila maya.
All right, that's all right. All he's trying to say is it's wonderful to meet you, and he wants you to have a beautiful evening.
The kid's visibly terrified, which the crew finds hilarious. Later that night, Merriman's crew is enjoying dinner at a restaurant, probably feeling like they've earned it after plotting the heist of the century. But guess who shows up? Big Nick and his gang. Donnie spots them first. Big Nick strolls over like he's at a high school reunion. He acts all friendly, claiming he knows Donnie from the gym. Donnie, trying to play it cool, nods along, but the anxiety in his eyes gives him away. Then Nick pretends he recognizes Merriman too, but Merriman's having none of it. He just deadpans, "Not from around here." Nick, clearly not getting the hint, turns back one last time and says, "Wait, now I remember. A high school football game, right?" He's trying to push buttons, but Merriman, in front of family, doesn't take the bait. Just when it feels like things are about to explode, Gus steps in, playing peacemaker. Merriman's crew starts getting suspicious. They think Donnie might be a cop. They lead him into a room where a guy's pouring chemicals into a huge drum. LeVou pats Donnie down, and then for good measure, Merriman roughs him up a bit, holding him at gunpoint. Merriman demands to know if he's been spilling their plans to Nick, but Donnie swears up and down that he hasn't said a word. Then he drops the bomb. Nick knows about them. That's enough for Merriman. He believes Donnie, at least for now. Merriman then drops his own little bomb. The heist is happening on Friday, and Donnie better let Nick know. That night, Nick, clearly losing his grip, crashes a small get-together at Debbie's sister's place. He's drunk, angry, and he's got divorce papers in hand. When Debbie's date tries to make a quiet exit, Nick isn't having it. "Sit down," he growls. Then, with a mix of arrogance and desperation, Nick signs the divorce papers, tossing out insults like they're candy at Halloween. The new boyfriend tries to stay calm, but Nick's not making it easy. Eventually, he's forced to leave, but not before one last round of awkward aggression. The next day, Donnie confronts Nick at a boutique. Donnie is pissed, accusing Nick of almost blowing his cover at the restaurant. He tells Nick the heist is set for Friday, just like Merriman said. Nick reassures him, saying he'll make sure Donnie stays safe, though considering Nick's track record, that's not super comforting. Later, at a gun range, Nick spots Merriman and his crew practicing. Legally, Nick could arrest them right there. After all, they're convicts with guns, but he doesn't. Instead, he watches as Merriman completely outguns him, firing off shots that all hit dead center. Nick tries to match him, but when he pulls the target close, he sees Merriman's bullets have all landed right in the heart. Frustrated, Nick crumples up the paper, unable to shake Merriman's quiet dominance. Feeling even more empty, Nick heads to a strip club. He leaves with a stripper, completely unaware that she's been hired by Merriman to snoop on him. Later, Nick gets the shock of his life when Merriman casually strolls into the stripper's apartment. Nick's gun is just out of reach, and the tension in the room skyrockets. Merriman barely even looks at Nick as he walks past him, straight into the bedroom. Nick quickly grabs his gun, dresses, and bolts, shaken but alive. The next morning, Merriman wakes up at the stripper's place. He packs his things and heads out. Meanwhile, Nick is having his own personal breakdown. He visits his daughter at school, but it's unscheduled, unplanned, and ends in heartbreak. He sits in his car, broken and sobbing, the weight of everything crashing down on him. Back at their hideout, Merriman is laser-focused. He goes over the heist plan with his crew, making sure every detail is locked down. He even takes time to give Donnie a crash course in proper weapons handling. Simultaneously, Nick and his team are gearing up. They load up on guns, ammo, bulletproof vests, the whole works. They're ready for war. They head to the heist location, keeping a close eye on Merriman and his crew. Merriman's team makes their move, storming a commercial bank branch and taking hostages. Nick and his team stay outside, watching as the chaos unfolds. Merriman delivers the standard hostage-taker line, "We're here for the money, not for you. Cooperate and you won't get shot." He's calm, collected, and terrifying. He orders the bank manager to call 911 and demand $10 million in unmarked bills delivered via helicopter, or hostages will start dying, 1 per hour. Nick, however, isn't thrilled when 911 responds. It ruins his plan for a private takedown, and then the FBI shows up. Merriman's crew isn't playing games, and to prove it, they shoot a hostage in the back room. The gunshot sends a ripple of tension outside as Nick and the FBI butt heads even more. The negotiator agrees to the money and chopper, but no more contact until the demands are met. Suddenly, Nick's phone rings. It's Merriman. How'd he get the number? The stripper, of course. Nick, trying to regain control, asks how Merriman plans to make it out alive. Merriman replies coolly, he's not gonna get arrested, that's for sure. Nick says he wasn't planning on arresting him anyway. His plan is to take them down. As Merriman and his crew blow open the vault, Mac intercepts a call about a Federal Reserve cash truck scheduled for 2 p.m. Back at the bank, Nick studies the building's schematics and spots something off. A manhole. Realizing Merriman's playing a different game, Nick grabs a crowbar, ignoring FBI orders, and rushes in with his team. Inside, they find the hostages, including the one they supposedly shot, still alive, just scared out of her mind. Merriman's crew? Gone, having escaped through the floor. Meanwhile, Merriman and his crew climb out of a manhole in a quiet part of the city. Without wasting time, Mac contacts the Federal Reserve, pretending to be legit representatives. They've already given their armored truck a fresh coat of paint. No one's blinking an eye. Meanwhile, Donnie hides inside one of the cash boxes like the ultimate sneaky passenger. Merriman orders Bosco to cut the power to the reserve, triggering the perfect emergency scenario. With the lights out, emergency protocols is triggered and non-essential staff are ordered out of the cash count room. Donnie slips out of the box like a ghost, heading straight for the old bills meant for destruction. The perfect heist never goes completely smooth, though. A guard starts to feel uneasy. He's got that gut feeling, the one that always kicks in right before things go south. He heads to the cash count room to check things out, then tries radioing the staff to come check things out. But Lavu scrambles their communication, stalling him. The guard leaves to fetch the staff, giving Donnie more time to stuff outdated bills into garbage bags like a pro, tossing them through the waste system. By the time the guard returns with the staff, Donnie's long gone, crawling through the vents like a rat auditioning for Mission Impossible. At the same time, Nick and his team tear through the city streets, trying to close in on Merriman's crew. They're fast, but Merriman's faster. Back at the Federal Reserve, Merriman and Lavu make their way out, walking coolly through each security checkpoint, like they've done this 1,000 times. They've swapped out the cash successfully. Meanwhile, Donnie is pulling off the most low-key escape. He retrieves the food he stashed days ago in the bathroom, delivers it to the customer, and makes his way out using the ID he swiped from staff at the bar to fool security. His confidence is through the roof. No one bats an eyelid as he strolls out. Merriman and Bosco hijack the waste truck carrying the cash, but Nick's crew finally catches up to Donnie. They rough him up, and after a lot of convincing, Donnie spills the beans on Merriman's next step. Mac listens in and relays this to Merriman. Nick and his team rush to intercept Merriman, but of course, they hit a traffic jam. Merriman's team is stuck too. Nick locks eyes on them, and Merriman, Lavu, and Bosco gear up for a showdown. Merriman pulls out a saw gun and lets loose on the street, sending bullets flying everywhere. Baracco goes down. Nick orders his team to circle around and cut them off. Bosco doesn't last long. Tony Z takes him out, but not without a price. Merriman shoots Tony Z in the knee, leaving him writhing in pain. Meanwhile, Gus takes down Lavu in the most undignified manner possible, leaving Merriman as the last man standing. But he's not going down without a fight. In the heat of the shootout, he takes down Murph. Merriman scales a fence, and Nick doesn't hesitate. He pulls the trigger. The bullet rips through the fence, striking Merriman and sending him stumbling forward. Wounded but not down, he turns to face Nick, blood dripping, clearly on his last leg. Merriman lifts his gun empty. Nick's instincts take over. He fires. The shot is quick, but it's a clean hit. Merriman collapses to the ground, his breathing ragged as life slowly slips away. Nick doesn't leave him there in silence. He steps forward, kneeling by Merriman's side, a strange, unspoken respect hanging in the air. Merriman, barely holding on, looks up at Nick. His voice is weak, but his words cut through the tension like a knife. "I told you, I wasn't going back to prison." He's at peace with his end, almost proud that he kept his twisted promise. Nick searches Merriman's SUV, expecting a fortune. Instead, all he finds are bags of shredded paper. The real cash is nowhere to be found. Meanwhile, Donnie has already slipped away from custody, Houdini style. The FBI later confirms that no money is missing from the Federal Reserve. Nick heads to Donnie's bar, where he starts piecing it all together. Photos of Donnie with Merriman's crew decorate the walls like a trophy case. Even more suspicious, employees from the Federal Reserve are regulars at the bar. Then it hits him. Donnie was the mastermind all along. Through a series of flashbacks, we see how Donnie orchestrated the entire heist. He hired Merriman's crew, gathered intel from the reserve staff, swapped out the cash for shredded bills, and stashed the real money in tires, shipping it off to Panama. Donnie, now in London, is working at another bar, blending into his new life like nothing ever happened. His crew is there too, quietly celebrating their success. A man from the Diamond Exchange walks in, and with a knowing smile, Donnie offers him a beer on the house. Because why not? And that's how you pull off the perfect heist. If you like this movie recap, drop a like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.